We have another amazing session. I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Janice Hilliard a number of years ago when I was at Arizona State and she was at the NBA, and was totally fascinated by her at that time and really thrilled to be introducing her today. She is not at the NBA, but she has gone on now to create her own firm. She is president and CEO of Hilliard Creative Education and Development Solutions. She is incredibly well known as somebody who has focused on the development of the whole person, and very excited to turn it over now to Dr. Janice Hilliard.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Am I mic'd up? Can you guys hear me? Okay, excellent. Thank you for that great introduction. There are so many people in this room that I have met and have worked with, probably more people that I've never met that know me and that I've worked with throughout my 30 years in education and athletics. And so I'm excited. I wanted to thank Patty and Women Leaders for having me here this afternoon. This is an exciting opportunity for me. But having folks in the room who are my mentors and people who I have mentored makes it even more exciting. It was mentioned in the introduction that I spent the last 15 years at the NBA in New York City. And to tell you the truth, in all my 30 years in athletics and in education, there's probably only one position that I've ever had that I worked at more than 2 years. Can you believe that? Talk about change and moving around. I had a teaching and a coaching job actually in Texas at a high school, and I worked there for 3 years. And all the other jobs throughout my whole career have been shorter than 3 years. Isn't that amazing? I don't know what it was. Maybe back then I was too naive and too young to be afraid to change from job to job. Maybe I was just excited about what I was doing. I was passionate about athletics, on the move, climbing that career ladder. I didn't know anything about a 401k, or I probably would have stayed places a little bit longer, or taken out my money when I moved from job to job. State to state, institutions, in and out of graduate school, for those of you that know me, all over the place. But one thing I know for sure, and like you and leaders in this room, that I was impacted by the type of leadership that I had in my different positions, as well as the type of leader that I was. And like you, you've probably worked with really strong leaders, successful leaders, leaders who were not so successful, probably picked up some good habits and some not so good habits along the way. But one thing for certain, in today's time, to be a leader, whether it's in athletics or in business or in entrepreneurship, one thing that's evident that you have to adapt to, and what is that? Change. Absolutely right. Change is inevitable. For all the things that you deal with in leadership positions, managing people, managing personalities, managing teams, supervising those unruly coaches, those of you that are in athletics, dealing with issues like gender equity, dealing with gender violence, social activism among student athletes, dealing with people who are trying to raise up or rise up in your businesses, in your organizations. I don't want to mention millennials, because millennials are always used in a negative terminology, but adjusting and being able to manage people and being a leader in today's time just requires a lot of change. So what does that mean? You have to be able to have the support of people above you. You have to manage those people above you. You have to have a very supportive, capable team that works with you or that works for you. And you've got to be super at what you do, right? All those things make sense. We're living in a time and in a place that's really unprecedented in the history of our country, in the history of our world. Politically, culturally, socially, athletically, we're dealing with things that we've not seen before. And in order to really be those leaders that we know that we are and that we can be, we have to be able to manage change. What is that about? What does that mean? So this afternoon's session is about a particular style of leadership called transformational leadership. You guys have probably heard about this, right? It's the most researched form of leadership out there in the profession. Who's heard of transformational leadership? Okay, excellent. I'm sure there's transformational leaders in this room that can kind of add a little value to what we're going to talk about today. So as we talk about transformational leadership today, we'll talk about also how do you assess yourself in terms of your leadership style. But most importantly, what I really want to emphasize today is a concept called self-awareness. Self-awareness means being connected with who you are, your feelings, and your emotions. Because, in my opinion, self-awareness is critical to any form of leadership, no matter what level that you're at. So as we look at those attributes, those characteristics, and those qualities of transformational leaders, I want you to think about yourself and some of the exercises that we're going to do and try to assess yourself as we go through the next 45 minutes that we have together. The first one said, I would never require a follower to do something that I wouldn't do.
Idealized influence.
Idealized influence. What do y'all think? Okay, that's correct. Very good. You're 1 for 5. Second one was, inspiring others has always come easy to me. What do you think?
Inspirational.
Inspirational motivation. What do you guys think? Yes. Easy, right? Okay. 2 for 5. 3, my followers would say that I'm attentive to their needs.
Individualized consideration.
Individualized consideration. What do you think? Correct. You got it right. Oh, they're rocking and rolling. 4, team creativity and innovation are the keys to success.
Intellectual stimulation.
Intellectual stimulation. Okay, excellent. Here's the last one and the tricky one. I could easily do a task myself, but I delegate it to develop a follower's skills. What do you think? Come on, you.
Okay, with this one we were debating amongst our team.
Okay, but think really. There's a clue in here. I know what the debate is. You're helping someone to develop their skills.
Intellectual stimulation.
What do y'all think? What do you think? Idealize what? You're helping someone to develop, to develop their skills.
But you're still having, like, you're making sure that they're aware of that particular situation. That's why we said intellectual. So that one was the one that we were debating. Because
anybody else? What do other people think? Individualized consideration. Why? Why were you able to figure that out? Absolutely. They got it. But let's give them a great big hand. They did a great job. And actually, because they stood up, right, and because they volunteered, you get a prize. How about that? To lead. So, as we sort of wrap up this session, what I've tried to do is really move towards what I think is the most important aspect of leadership. No matter what type of leader that you are, transformational or otherwise, you really need to begin with self-awareness. Who are you? What are you about? How do you relate to others? It sounds kind of simple, but it's a big part of a challenge that we need in today's leadership. It's something that we've overlooked in the past because we've been so focused on performance and production. But we're seeing now, and the research is showing, how important it is to acknowledge your strengths, to acknowledge your weaknesses, and to work on those, and to be realistic. Because if we're able to be self-aware, then we can begin to assess ourselves, whether it's formally or informally. And we just talked about ways to do self-assessment. And as we move kind of up that diagram, you see that self-awareness, self-assessment can lead to the kind of leadership, the change leadership that we need to be effective in today's time. So kind of simple ideas and concepts, but really wanting to drill home today the idea of self-awareness. Hope some of this has been helpful to you, that you've kind of thought about some different things and able to connect some concepts that will be able to help you in your businesses, in your work. I do have some evaluations on the table in front of you. If you would take the time to complete those, that would be great. If I have 2 minutes, I would like to ask the audience if they have any burning questions that you guys might want to ask or that you might want to share with each other, because I know we have outstanding leaders in this session that know probably a lot more about this stuff than I do. Any questions from anyone?